While discussing the British Army's search for a new assault rifle is a little bit outside of our main geographical area of focus, it's clear that many of you are interested in this topic. Besides, UK forces are stationed in Estonia leading a NATO multinational battle group, and so we'll use that as our reason for covering a topic that is seemingly so far away. But yes, today we're talking about Project Greyburn, the British Army's effort to replace the SA80 service rifle, otherwise known as the L85. We'll go over the latest news, related developments, and some potential options. So, let's get started. As noted by Nicholas Drummond of the website UK Land Power, the British Army's L85/SA80 rifle was developed in the 1970s and entered service in the late 1980s. We won't go over this old rifle's full history, but just state that an update is long overdue. There are several media outlets and a handful of Reddit posts calling the SA80 the worst rifle ever. These kinds of statements require more context, as old variants had their problems, but newer versions have been significantly improved. On the problematic earlier variants, sofrep.com notes that the polymer furniture fell apart easily, while the magazines and the magazine catch proved problematic as it was too easy to access and would cause soldiers to accidentally drop magazines. The top cover catch required tape to hold it in place, and weapons needed to be kept incredibly clean and could even deform if gripped too hard. Additionally, early SA80s overheated quickly, while their firing pins were fragile and broke easily. Dirt could accumulate behind the trigger and prevent it from being pulled. And finally, the safety selector could swell when it got wet and render the weapon useless. The A2 version of this rifle, a redesign performed by Heckler & Koch, appeared in 2002, and this fixed a lot of issues. The A3 version, which came in 2018, saw even more improvements, although only 40,000 weapons were modified to this standard. Despite those all-important fixes and improvements, it's said that the new variants are heavier than they need to be, and ergonomics are still less than ideal. Core design issues such as a non-adjustable stock make it difficult to shoot when wearing body armor. The SA80 is also notably not ambidextrous, and left-handed shooters would simply need to train to be right-handed shooters with this rifle. And so the bottom line is that the SA80 inventory is now old and worn out, and it's time for a replacement. Enter Project Greyburn, the mission to replace the NATO standard caliber 5.56x45mm L85A3. There is also Project Cairns to replace the 7.62x51mm L7A2 GPMG, but our focus is on the former. UK Defence Journal states that the projected out-of-service date for the L85A3 is currently 2030. And so, according to UK Land Power, a winner will be selected based on technical performance, but also based on each bid/bidder's compliance with the UK Land Industrial Strategy, or LIS. Unlike the US Army, which is replacing its standard 5.56mm rifles and 7.62mm machine guns with a new 6.8mm caliber system, it looks like the British Army will retain the two legacy NATO calibers, 5.56 and 7.62. There are good reasons to do this, but some see this as an opportunity to consider other caliber options, moving up to something bigger that can pack a bigger punch. Of course, the very common 5.56mm benefits from being in production for a sustained period, equating to economies of scale and optimization of the round. As highlighted by Global Defense Technology, the effect it has on barrel wear is also a pertinent consideration. But this video is not a debate and discussion on the pros and cons of each caliber, so maybe we'll end the caliber discussion there. But of course, feel free to express your opinion down in the comment section as to the ideal caliber for a standard service rifle. So, what rifles could be considered? Well, again, citing that UK Land Power article, it states that the principal rifle options are as follows. From Heckler & Koch, there's the HK416 and HK433. The HK416 has proven to be quite popular already, and its variants are used as standard service rifles for Norwegian, French, and German armed forces. The FN SCAR-L is another option. Unsurprisingly, this weapon is the standard service rifle for Belgium's armed forces. There's also the SIG MCX-LT. Used by various special forces around the world, the US Army uses the MCX Spear as its next-generation squad weapon, or NGSW, to replace the M4 carbine. Then there's the fairly new Beretta NARP, which stands for New Assault Rifle Platform. The CZ Bren 3 has also been mentioned. The Bren 2 was chosen by the Czech Army as their standard select-fire rifle and is said to be very popular among soldiers involved in the conflict in Ukraine as well. CZ Brens are in service in Hungary, Mexico, Ghana, Kenya, Portugal and elsewhere. And finally, the KS-1 from Knights Armament Company, which has been chosen by the British Royal Marines and the British Army's Ranger Regiment. All of the weapons mentioned, with the exception of the rifle from Knights Armament, feature a short-stroke piston-operated system. The KS-1, on the other hand, is a direct gas impingement weapon. Some are of the opinion that the British Army should simply follow in the footsteps of the Royal Marines, who are replacing their older SA80s with the Knights Armament KS-1, which is now in service for most commando units. However, a rifle for some of the UK's most elite warriors may not be the best for all service members. And this again brings us back to the gas piston versus direct impingement discussion. The gas piston system is ideal for harsh environments, ensuring reliable performance even with minimal maintenance. Direct gas impingement, also sometimes referred to as internal piston, is better for standard operational environments, providing a lighter and more streamlined design, offering refined accuracy and a smoother shooting experience. But in terms of core design, the HK433, SCAR-L, SIG MCX-LT, Beretta NARP, and CZ Bren 3 are all more or less based on the same design as the AR-18 developed by Armalite in 1963 as an alternative to the Colt AR-15 design. The HK416 is a piston-operated version of the M4 rifle. Maybe at this point we need to mention that the SA80 itself is also derived from the AR-18. It's simply a bullpup version of the AR-18 with poor ergonomics. But yes, just like the new Sakor Arctic Rifle Generation series we discussed in a previous video, many of the rifles adopted by militaries these days use this very common non-bullpup AR pattern. Again, it's been proven to work and be reliable, so why reinvent the wheel? It does indeed look like the British Army will move away from a bullpup design, where the action and magazine are positioned behind the trigger group. But as things relate to Project Greyburn, that's where things seem to stand at the moment. Again, 2030 looks to be when the L85A3 will be fully phased out, and so the clock is ticking to select a weapon, place a major order, and work to slowly transition to the new weapon in terms of training and logistics. All things that take time due to how many rifles will need to be ordered. And on the topic of logistics, Nicholas Drummond notes that the UK government will also want to identify an industrial partner who is willing to make the necessary investment to reconstitute a sovereign capability to mass-produce small arms. But what do you think of Project Greyburn and the search for a new standard service rifle for the British Army? What would you choose, and what caliber? Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment.